alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to Alive After Reading. I'm Tim Niederreiter, and with me today is a new guest to the podcast, Michael W. Lucas. Welcome to the podcast, Michael.
Hi, Tim. It's good to be back.
Yes, you are back on the podcast after 0 previous appearances. Anyway, tell the listeners a little bit about your books and the sort of stuff you write.
Well, I've been writing books for about 30 years now, and I write science fiction, crime thrillers, some mystery. I write a lot of nonfiction about basically books on how to build your own Amazon or Google. And sadly, what I'm best known for is satirical Linux erotica.
And
which I did not.
You're not joking.
No, I'm not.
You don't look like you're joking.
I wish I was joking.
Amazing.
I have a pile of books out that stacked up reaches almost to my eyes. And what I'm best known for is a short story I slammed out in one day.
Oh boy, you and Paul Ellard Cooley, both.
We need a support group.
It's true. The authors are like, well, yeah, I hit it big with my fan fiction. Like, what? Or my weird little thing, the weird stuff.
Yes.
This is what people actually wanted from these people, from each of you, it's weird.
Yes.
It's a strange world. It's a strange world where the erotica, Chuck Tingle is out there. I mean, I know he doesn't actually, I don't think he technically makes that much money, or that pen name does, but, he's famous. He's famous among authors.
He absolutely is, and he has laid his hand on the axle of his destiny, and he is turning it fast.
And so are you, apparently. So you say Linux erotica.
Yes. It's called Savaged by System D. Go look it up.
Okay. We don't have to go into that too far if you don't want to.
It was a one-time thing.
Oh, that's what they all say.
And
no.
Yes.
Sorry. But you have other books out there too. You have a free volume out. What's that one called?
I have a free short novel out. It's called Forever Falls. It's the first book in my Montague Portal science fiction series. And the underlying idea is that humanity never really gets into space, but they have figured out how to jump into universes with different natural laws.
Oh.
And to change the laws of physics. So in this one, you're in a universe where if you look to the left, the universe is so tightly compacted that everything is pressed down to pure neutronium. And if you look the other way, matter starts to get lighter and diffuse, and eventually it falls apart. And humanity has learned how to exploit these universes to accomplish things that are not possible in our world. And the heroine is a bottom-level security officer.
Nice. I've not heard that one before, actually. Yeah.
She's
the low level, like the grunt level.
Oh, yes. She gets all the dirty work. And, of course, someone gets killed, and it's her job to figure out why. And hijinks ensue.
Of course. In this crazy multiple universe kind of setup. Yeah.
Right.
Or universe manipulated setup. Cool.
Yes.
Sounds actually... Sorry, go on.
I've always loved Star Trek. But the thing about Star Trek is every few episodes they uncover a new natural law that solves the whole thing. They invent some balonium. They figure out, well, if this one time, if we overload the warp drive in this way, it will fix everything.
Yes.
And this kind of this setup comes with that. These are the rules of physics in this universe. This is how things work. But in the next book, well, we have a whole different set of physical laws. And nothing from the last book except my low-level security grunt is the same.
Ah, okay. So you can do that now, but you've got a premise that allows you to do that.
I have a premise. It's in the rules.
Nice. The rules can change. That's one of the rules. That's the first rule. Now the rules can change.
Yes.
Nice. Actually, I like that. Yeah.
We set you up in a universe. Here are the rules. Go.
There's a lot of possibilities with a story like that. I like my universe hopping, but I'm more on the fantasy side for that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's a little less technical most of the time. In the sense of it doesn't have to be grounded in what we understand fully, or understand even close to fully.
Still, you have to set up rules.
Absolutely.
Fantasy. Agreed. Yes, you need rules for your magic, for your empire, for how people get fed.
It's true, though a lot of fantasy gets by without those somehow. Somehow people are just surviving, even though there's way too many of them or way too little resources or whatever.
Right.
Depends on the setting.
Where are the farmers?
Exactly. I'd be hard pressed to find someone, but anyway. I'm not thinking of anything in specific here. I'm not trying to cast shade at any specific series, but I'm sure they're out there because at least back in the 80s and 90s, that was a big deal. Honestly, people were talking. There were a lot of fantasy series coming out, maybe even before that. They are not really on my radar, but they were like, we're not going to worry about any of that stuff. We're just going to tell this story the way we want to tell it, which is okay too. But it's a different kind of approach than what we're talking about. As long as that book's fun, though, why not?
Yes, that if you can leave the reader going, "Oh, that was good. That was a ride," and best of all, where's the next one?
Yes, got to get that one. Yeah, you got that's the most important to the author. But yeah, just giving them a good time is the most important overall, probably.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So, but also one of the things about being an author is I know when I release my first book release has been unpublished. That should tell you what I think about it. But I feel like I'm doing better now. So how do you think you would? How do you go about improving as an author? Because you have a lot more books out than I do. I mean, how do you go about making sure they each improve over time?
Well, I love that question. I could go on for hours about that question. But
you got 10 minutes.
Make it
you
short.
Got 5 or 10 minutes.
I can make it shorter than that.
Sure.
Writing is a bunch of skills. You start off looking at skills, when you're in grade school, it's things like spelling and sentence and paragraph. And then you get up to where you're publishable, and it's things like plot and character and setting and conflict. And then you go on a bit more, and your list will change again. Because, when you're published, you don't really have to think about how to spell cat.
Yeah, by then it's rote. You get that stuff.
Right. When you're publishing when your first book is coming out and you sweated blood over character and plot, that's what you should be worrying about. By your 50th or 60th book, you'll be thinking about things that are well beyond just generic plot as your specific skills. So basically, I have a list of what I think of as my current skills. And each book, I pick one to work on. I know that skills I've already developed are going to be there when I call them. So I don't have to worry about, the basics of the 7-point plot. I got that cold.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to specifically work on a particular piece of setting that I want to set in every chapter of the book. Or the last novel I just put out, I wanted to focus on establishing characterization in the point of view character at the very opening of the chapter. I wanted to really nail that down in the character's voice. So, when I have a novel that has multiple point of view characters again, I will have practiced that. I know that skill is there. And I can pick something else to work on.
Right. Yeah, go on.
And then after however many books, I'll realize, yeah, I practiced that skill before, but my understanding is better now. And I really need to work on that again, or this tiny piece of that. And I'll do another round on something related to that skill.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And over time, you will eventually get better.
I mean, I can attest to some of that. I mean, even though I only have 10 books out, I've written 30 books or so.
Yes.
So, I mean, that gives me, you can put things in perspective here. I mean, I only have 10 decent ones currently. Or ones that work with what I'm currently trying to publish.
Right.
But, yeah. It's interesting because there's all these, like you said, there's all these different skills. There's all these different places to improve. And at least lately for me, the things I noticed that I'm doing mostly unconsciously. Would you say there's a level of unconscious action to the skill once you get it down, or what do you, how does that work for you?
Oh, absolutely. Once you practice a skill, and you have learned it, it's there for you. Mm-hmm. You don't have to think about how to spell dog.
Nope.
You don't have to think about sentence structure unless you're trying to do something really fancy.
Right.
Your characters have names and motivations and all of these usual things.
Yeah, definitely. So, there's this base level that I'm operating at the very least at this point. Yeah, as is any writer who's got a few books under their belt probably at this point.
Right, and if you look at someone practicing any other art or craft, look at a cabinet maker. When he's past journeyman and he's now able to work on his own, he can hang those doors just fine. Mm-hmm. But as he develops his skill more and more, that becomes automatic, and he can spend his mental energy focusing on the fancy scroll work or doing clever little things to make the cabinets his own. Okay. And someone who has spent their life working in an art or a craft and has tried to improve and learn things can leave those of us who are professionals but lack that experience standing there slack-jawed going, how did he do that?
Mm-hmm. That makes the perfect sense. It's a good answer. Yeah.
So pick a skill, practice it. Just one per book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the latest Montague Portal novel came out in November, December
2020.
Something like that. They blurred 2020. Yes, the endless black void of 2020.
The abyss, as it were. Yes.
Yes. And I'm very happy with how the characterization turned out. Mm-hmm. But, this next book, I'm looking at a particular type of setting, and I don't know if I can even describe that. But I know what it is, and I know what I want to achieve, and I can practice it. So,
Oh, that's really cool. Actually, that does remind me, as your as your multiple universe story actually kind of reminded me, the different laws of physics is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try to avoid mentioning this, but now it's too late. Is this story I mentioned on a lot of these podcasts is a universe of mine, the Pillar universe, which is I have one book out in it, but it's a universe that is no planets or stars in it, science fiction, but
yes.
it's very weird as far as the setting. But and when I was writing that book, Origin of Storms is the name of the book, I didn't know how I was going to describe that setting. And I still think I maybe didn't do a perfect job of it because, well, sometimes you kind of have to come out and say, well, there's no planets or stars. They can't see any planets or stars, even though those are never described in the book. It doesn't come across, and I still get people saying this is intergalactic science fiction. I'm like, nope, way smaller than that. But also, completely different because there's no void, there's no vacuum of space. None of this stuff is in there. There's not even really gravity in the traditional sense. So, yeah, it's it's different laws of physics.
Yep.
That function in a simple way, so the characters never have to explain them. It's kind of funny.
Yes. And that's a really hard job in fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I at least can say there's a Montague Portal short story that is set in a universe that is flat. Wherever you stand is ground. The sun is always directly overhead. It never sets.
Wow.
You can literally walk forever in any direction.
Wow. Okay. It's kind of scary, right? When you just describe it that way. Yeah.
Well, it's a universe where they can mine antimatter ore.
Mm.
And it doesn't interact in that universe. You take it back home and it's another story. But as an SF writer, I can just say, okay, this universe is flat.
Right.
This is in the mission briefing. Here you go.
Right. Yeah, that is the one thing. Like with the Pillar universe, it is. I consider it science fiction, but it's a science fiction universe that doesn't have our universe in it. Our universe, there's no reference frame there for the characters. Right. They've never known a planet or a star, so what are they going to say when they're not going to describe that to the reader either? In point of view, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Which is really, that's the difficulty, right? Like, how do I get across that? I mean, and I tried a few things, but I still, and I think the book's being pretty well received. But it's kind of funny how, like, oh yeah, I need to do better next time. And that's my next book is a Pillar Universe book, so we'll see. See how well I can do it this time.
You have a skill to practice.
Exactly.
Congratulations.
Exactly. Wonderful. Though, yeah, and it has been like 5 years since I wrote the last one, so oh boy, it's gonna be a monster.
Yeah.
Oh well, but yeah, go on. Sorry.
That happens when you write in multiple worlds and even multiple genres. I have
there's a lot of different stuff to do. Yeah.
Right.
What were you saying before I cut you off there? I'm sorry.
I have a book 3 in a series that readers are desperately waiting for. That I was. I could not write that book between 2016 and 2020. Because it hit a little too close to home right then. But I'm hopeful to get it out in this year or the next.
Okay. So I'm kind of curious how fast you write, actually, because you do have a fair number of books out there. Do you have a process that helps you get lots of books done fast, or do they come out more gradually?
Well, that pile is impressive until you divide it by 30 years.
Ah, yes. It's like 2 books a year. 2 or 3.
And I've been writing more books now in these last few years because I've been a full-time writer. But in general, hours in the chair with the internet turned off equals books.
Yeah.
It really is that simple. I've learned how to. I did some practice on a particular skill and turned myself into a first draft writer.
Ooh, okay. So like a Dean Wesley Smith style revise as you go kind of thing?
Yes. Basically, every 500 words I write, I scroll back and, double check that there's nothing actively stupid. And then just keep going. And that is something much like learning how to spell cat. It's a skill you pick up, and it's just there when you call it.
Well, cool. You're not the first, as I may have suggested before. You're not the first one to mention that ability, and it's not really one I've tried because I can do my editing really quickly. I mean, relatively speaking, it doesn't. I can put hours into editing that don't drag me down like the rough draft does. Sometimes, the rough draft takes a lot longer for me for some reason than or at least day wise by day count than because I discover the book. But then I think it's just because I've been afraid of the books too much lately, which is weird. After 30 books, 30 some books, I'm like, okay, why am I afraid of these now? I've spit out a bunch of them at this point.
Yes, you mentioned Dean Wesley Smith. Mm-hmm. I recommend what he writes about critical voice versus creative voice, because I really think he nails it.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed a few of his books on writing. It's just hard for me to internalize that, though.
Oh, it's a lifetime thing.
Right. Yeah.
You would be shocked at how often I have been hung up on something, and then I'll be out, picking up the yard and realize, oh crap, that's just my critical voice doing that.
Now slap that thing down and get back at it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm one of these people who, for me, everything is about the reader reaction. And I have found that the less I revise, the stronger the reader reaction.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Now, that's a really hard thing to objectively measure. Mm-hmm. And when you combine it with the fact that I am constantly working to improve skills, it would be really easy to argue that that's bullshit. I've just developed better skills, and that I'm just piling up my bullshit deep enough to drown in.
Well, maybe you could argue that.
Yeah,
but it sounds to me as though maybe there's a certain, but it's the critical voice thing is what it sounds like to me. If we take Dean's point that your critical voice destroys the story, the creative voice makes the story, basically, to put it in kind of my terms, whatever.
Yes.
The creative voice allows you to do everything you do when you're creating fiction, basically.
Absolutely.
And the critical voice does none of that. All it does is say that's bad and you should change it. It's like writing by committee if you listen to the critical voice.
Yes, absolutely.
And that sterilizes your book, even if it does make it cleaner. That's his argument, right?
That is his argument, and the critical voice is actually, I see two ways that plays into people. One is because your life is crap. I mean, if you've just gone through a divorce, and your critical voice is really loud, that's not a surprise. You've just had the snot beaten out of you.
Yeah.
And you need to get your life back in a little bit of order. And it's okay to not write then. Mm-hmm. The other way that I see the critical voice messing with people is, the critical voice is part of your life. It helps keep you alive. The critical voice is the thing that told our primitive ancestors, hey, don't eat that.
Or don't walk in the tall grass. There's a tiger in there, you idiot.
Yes. The critical voice has a job to do.
Mm-hmm.
So give it a job. And that is part of why I practice one skill each time.
Because that's where your critical voice goes, kind of thing.
Yes, I can say, shut up. We're writing dialogue. It's not your job.
Not your turn, yeah.
Think about this. This is what you're worrying about right now. I'm writing snarky, witty dialogue that one of the characters doesn't realize he's being picked on.
Oh, isn't that the best kind? Anyway,
Yes.
that's a fun that's a fun scene right there. You just described an amusing kind of form of writing. Anyway, I don't know. But no, that's great. I really like that because that's actionable advice in both counts, right? Sometimes you just can't do it. Sometimes you have to take a break because your life is beating you down, and other times you just need to throw that stupid critical voice a bone and let it get out of your way for a while.
Yes. And this last year especially, so many people have had such a hard time writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And life delivered us all a wedgie.
That's one way to put it. Yikes. Yeah. No kidding though. Right? Really. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We all need, and even now with the vaccines, we need some recovery time. This has all been a psychological beating, and bruises take time to heal.
You don't want to go out and run on that broken leg. You got to let that recover. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could do, once I have a couple hours into writing, and if I'm in the flow, I can do about 1,500 words an hour. Last year, it was 400, maybe 500.
Oof. Brutal.
Well, oh, yeah. And talk about feeding the critical voice.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, geez.
But I'm back up to 800 now. And I could whinge about, that's only half speed. But on the other hand, it's twice what I was doing last year.
Holy crap, yeah. Geez, you gotta just take what you got at this point. It's improving. That's the good part.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just take a deep breath, give the critical voice a job to do, and write something that makes you giggle.
Nice. Yeah. So this has been really good, Michael. But we are basically out of time. So remind people where they can find your books and your website and all that stuff.
Well, my website is mwl.io, nice and short for all you people with those tiny cell phone keyboards. Mm-hmm. My novel, my short novel, Forever Falls, is free everywhere on all platforms. Because as a writer, you have to sell through every way anyone wants to give you money. But that's another whole rant.
Yes, unfortunately, no time for that.
Maybe next time.
Yeah, maybe next time. We'll have to do this again for sure. This has been fun. But, yeah.
And if you want crime, or if you think the problem with John Carpenter's The Thing was he didn't go far enough, I have books for you.
Yeah, nice. Geez. Yeah, pro-crime. We're pro-crime here at Alive After Reading.
No. Well, sort of. I do write
crime
books
fiction.
On how to build your own Google or Amazon.
That's a whole other kind of crime.
That's another kind of crime. But no. If you want heists and a modern Mickey Spillane, I've got that for you.
All right. I just couldn't resist that joke. Thanks for being on the show,
yes.
Michael. It's been a lot of fun. Good job.
Thank you, sir. Anytime.
Yeah, wonderful. So as for this podcast, you can find us at mentalcellarpublications.com, which is a nice long URL for those of you with desktop keyboards. But also, you can find my books on Amazon.com currently, or you can find them, the print books, all across the internet. Barnes & Noble, all the good places. And currently, Well Country, which is my third Demon Hunter epic fantasy novel, is out for pre-order on Amazon. It's coming out in just a week, folks, from the dropping of this episode. April 4th. Was it really? Holy crap, that is close. April 4th. That's Easter Sunday, I believe. Oh, well, I'm going insane. What a weird get that was. Anyway.
Well, that's right between my tooth extraction and my second COVID shot.
Wow, so you're going to miss the candy rabbits or something, I guess.
Oh, that's gonna be a really bad weekend.
Oh no, that sounds awful. But oh well. Yeah, so hang in there, Michael, and we'll talk to you all again next week. Stay safe, everybody.
Thanks, Tim.
Oh, more than welcome. Bye.
That tears it.